Welcome back to Isolation Cast Voices from Quarantine, helping you find joy in uncertain times. Welcome back to Isolation Cast. Today, I have someone who I am so excited to get to spend some time with and for all of you to get to know. I have with me today indie folk rock sensation, Ciarra Fragale. Ciarra, welcome to Isolation Cast.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So, I know you, but why don't you tell everyone at home a little bit about yourself and, yeah.
Yeah, okay. My name is Ciarra, as you just heard. I am a musician. I was based in the Hudson Valley for a long time, but now I currently live in North Adams, Massachusetts. And yeah, I am mostly a touring musician, which is not a thing right now, but hopefully will be again soon. And I'm also an actor, which is how I met Matthew. We went to college together and have been beautiful, wonderful friends ever since.
Absolutely. Music. It is what you were doing a lot of. I adore your music.
Thanks.
It is so good. We're going to talk more about your music soon. But, we lived in New Paltz for a while. We both went to SUNY New Paltz, and you are now living in Massachusetts. Talk to us a little bit about what took you to Massachusetts and kind of how COVID-19 is affecting your place there and kind of what you were there doing.
Right. So back, actually, probably around this time last year, I applied for a grant through the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art, or MASSMOCA, as it is more commonly known as. And I just kind of on a whim applied for this grant. I had been playing a bunch of shows in North Adams, and I was starting to make a lot of friends there, and I really loved getting the chance to go there every time I had a show or something like that. So a few friends of mine, they kind of came to me and they were like, hey, just so you know, there's this grant program through MASSMOCA that you should maybe apply for, which ultimately it was a grant program that would pay the grantee to come and live in North Adams and contribute to its growing artistic community. So I decided to apply, and then I didn't really hear back for months afterwards. So I just kind of forgot about it, and I was like, okay, I guess that's not really happening. But when I got back I went on tour in August, and when I got back from that tour, I was kind of feeling a little lost, like I didn't really know what my next move was. And then I get a call from the grant people, and they were like, hey, Ciarra, just so you know, we still have these funds on hold for you. Just let us know what you want to do. And I was like, wait, what is this in reference to? And they were like, it's for the Assets for Artists grant for the North Adams project. And I was like, wait, does that mean that I got the grant? And they were like, wait, what do you mean? And I was like, I never got my exception or denial. I just wasn't sure. Like maybe it got lost or something. And they were like, oh, this has happened before. They for some reason, to bring up SUNY New Paltz again, they for some reason had my college email address.
Oh no!
That I haven't used in the 3 years since I've graduated from college. So I was quite confused. I was quite confused at how they got that email address, and they were like, "Oh, so first of all, congratulations. This is the first you're hearing about it." And I was like, "Okay, great. That's wonderful." And then I gave them the right email address. But yeah, so it took me a little while to from learning that I got the grant to moving to North Adams, it was kind of a couple months of a timeline, finding a place to live and all that.
Right.
And yeah, so in December, I moved to North Adams, and I've been having a great time so far. It was kind of strange in the beginning because I basically moved here to do this grant program. Luckily, I have a lot of really great friends here, so I was coming into somewhere where I already had a support system, which definitely made me feel a little less anxious about moving to a brand new place. But there was a while there where I was commuting back and forth to the Hudson Valley every week or so for a show or for practice with my band or for whatever reason, family stuff, whatever. But I was just going back and forth there a lot. Enough where I wasn't like I was only at my apartment here in North Adams for like a week at a time. It seemed like I was never here consecutively for more than like 14 days, which is kind of a crazy way to live, especially since you just moved somewhere new. It doesn't really give you a chance to settle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So probably in like January, February, I wasn't really sure how I liked it because I never really had a chance to settle anyway because I was just ping ponging back and forth so much. I was always playing shows and I was always going somewhere. And then I was about to set off on my 3-week tour in March, which obviously ended up getting postponed because of COVID.
Obviously.
The remaining 2 weeks of it got postponed. And, you know, I was a little nervous before we went out on tour because I wasn't sure if I was going to come back to my home in North Adams and feel better or worse about where I was living. And that all goes without saying. I'm really, really thankful to be a part of MASSMOCA's grant program. I have learned so much in this short time, and it's really an honor to be recognized by them and to be chosen to contribute to their growing artistic community. But you know, it's more. I was feeling more so. You know, I miss my family. I miss my friends. This is a new place. I love my friends here, but it's not the same. You know, just kind of all of the changes that happen when you move somewhere. So we went out on tour, and I wasn't really sure how to feel. And then COVID happened, is happening. So we came back, and we played our last show in Washington, D.C. on March 12th. I will never, ever, ever forget that show for a multitude of reasons. It was incredibly special, incredibly eerie, but like the energy in the room that night was impeccable. It was incredible. But then the next day when we woke up to drive back home, I just remember like I could not wait to get back to my house in North Adams. I was like, it was like I could not drive on the highway fast enough to get home. I could not wait. And then, you know, 2 months later, it's, you know, I now feel really comfortable with where I live. And so I would say in an odd way, you know, everything that's been happening with the pandemic has kind of forced me to settle down and be present for a second. And I think that's a lesson that we can all learn from this is, you know, it's a lesson in being present, because when things are changing on a daily, even hourly basis, you're kind of forced to be in the moment, you know? So yeah, I guess it took a global lockdown for me to for me to really enjoy, for me to truly like love my house. And you know, I really lucked out with my living situation, and it's nice.
That's so good.
It's nice.
So let's talk about a little bit, because like We're intersexual artists. Intersectional. Whoa, that's gonna get cut out. Intersectional artists.
Leave it in.
Leave it in. Leave it all in. Life's too weird to cut the weird stuff right now.
That's right.
And so as a intersectional artist, and I've been your dresser on a show. We've done stuff together.
Yeah.
Theatrically, I've sat in a coffee house and watched you perform. What was it like? What is it like to be a audio artist, a singer? You're brought in as a musician for a modern art museum. Like, what is kind of your approach, or what have been some of the things that you've been doing as a musician at a museum?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely. I don't want to say I'm the odd one out because the grant program at MASSMOCA, which is called Assets for Artists, they're an amazing institution of people who are really helping artists of every kind, kick ass, and that's really, really great to see, especially for someone who doesn't do visual art.
Right.
So at a place like MASSMOCA, where visual art is kind of it's at the forefront, Assets for Artists is really trying to bring in artists of all different backgrounds and mediums, and which makes for a really diverse group of people when you get us all in a room together in a workshop or something, and we're all kind of talking and everyone has a different point of view. So I don't want to say that I'm the odd one out, because there are a lot of other artists in my grant program that are of different mediums. So, not just visual art. Like there's, there are fashion designers. There's, I'm a musician. There's photographers. There's, so you have all of these different kinds of people. But I will say, I think I offer an interesting perspective from being a musician, and even my background as an actor has come into play a lot of the times in workshops and things like that, just kind of offering a different perspective that people who aren't on the performing side of things might not really know or understand.
Absolutely.
Just
the
because,
internal struggle.
Just because it's a weird thing to experience, and you don't really know what it's like until you've done it. So, so I will say a lot of the work that I'm doing, having that perspective as a musician has been really eye-opening, because it's, I've been learning a lot from the other people, and I hope that my perspective is allowing people to kind of see things in a new light as well. But yeah, so MASSMOCA, in addition to being an art museum, a wonderful art museum, they also have extensive music programming. They put on a festival every year called Fresh Grass. They have huge concerts that are amazing, and it's really, really great. So as a musician, I was really honored to be recognized by them in that way. And so on the production side of things, it's kind of been cool to see that side of MASSMOCA. And since I'm in the performing arts, it's been really valuable, I think, because these are people who really know what they're doing, and it's really nice to kind of be in that environment. As you know, working with people of that caliber is a really great thing.
Oh yes.
You always want to work with people that know more than you.
Because we're always growing. There is never a point in my life where I've realized I've never learned something or I've stopped growing. And when we feel that we've stopped growing, I think it's a good sign to move on. And so to be thrown into an opportunity with that, where you might be a little uncomfortable, or you might feel odd or strange because what you do is valid, but it's a little bit different. It's one of those situations where you have to get past that kind of nervousness, then being the uncomfortable and feeling uncomfortable. And because then that's when you're going to be able to grow, and you're going to be able to give things to the other artists that you're working with.
Totally. And that's been a really fruitful part of this whole experience.
So what has MASSMOCA been able to do during COVID. I know this is a difficult time for everybody, but some museums have been able to do digital tours or still do digital components to their presentation. Have they, with you or around that, have they been doing anything else kind of while we can't walk into their space?
Not really. Yeah,
Okay.
MASSMOCA, they're currently closed until further notice, I guess. But Assets for Artists, which is the grant program, which are the people who gave me this grant, ultimately they have been doing some really amazing online webinars for their grantees. So, we have access to all of these amazing workshops that really touch on, like how to market yourself in a time where everyone's on social media, or how to make a plan in completely uncertain times, like things that are really timely that artists need to know and probably wouldn't learn otherwise. And it's really great what they're doing with their online webinars.
That's absolutely amazing, because those are also things that you're only kind of learn through trial and error, or someone going, oh my God, please, I need to tell you this because nobody ever told me this. And so I had to learn the hard way. So that's amazing that they're looking out for you all because for artists, and this is something I tried to tell my students this year, was you have to think about the business side of everything. Totally. Because at the end of the day, there's still bills to pay, and like you're a brand, which is something, as we transition into my next question for you, you've always been on top of figuring out what your branding is, how your branding shifted, because like the last year when I was at school, like there were always new stickers or posters or things that you were just trying. You made your own patches. There were just all these things that like you were developing your brand as you were developing your sound. And every time your sound shifted a little, you altered that branding just a little bit. But it was so intrinsic to what you did, which is something really solid that a lot of artists don't do.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Sorry,
go ahead. No, you're good. Yeah.
I just wanted to say it's quite nice to hear that from someone on the outside looking in, because for me it is something that I am constantly thinking about, and I feel like I think about it too much, and I feel like I'm never doing enough. It's the classic thing, right? We care about something so much that we put all of our energy into it, and somehow we feel like we haven't cracked the code in a way.
Absolutely.
So thank you. It's really nice to hear that. And yeah, it definitely, it's work. It's totally work. But it pays off. And if you're truly proud of like what you're putting out there, aside from your actual art, if you are truly proud of how you are running your business, meaning yourself, basically, it's a really cool thing, because you can be like, yeah, this is me. This is my business card, or this is my sticker. Like this came from a reflection of my art, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So
thanks. And that's one of those things. You're welcome. And that's one of those things that like I get, especially because we shouldn't be into art for the money, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to pay bills. And so you have to be willing to put in, even if it's not your main thing, even if it's like your side hustle or what you just do for fun, social media, and like just how you present your music to the world, because it's not just for you in a vacuum. You've got to be able to think about those things, and you have to be willing to put time into those things in order for your music to touch anybody, or your music to be out there. I mean, you don't have to create art for anybody. That's foolish of me to say, but it's one of those things that like everybody wants to be heard, and there are these things, but if you're not willing to put the background work in, it's not going to matter how good of an artist you are or how much of a good musician you are. Don't get into it if you're not willing to do the kind of hard work aspect of it, because it is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that's right. At least if you're planning to do it as a career, you definitely need the hard work. I definitely agree. And it is work, but if you what do they say? If you truly love something,
It'll never feel like real work. Yeah.
But
yeah.
sometimes it gets stressful.
And there's a little monotony when you're having to update your website for the 40th time in a month because the margins are just a little off. Or I ran into this graduating that I hadn't really thought about what the mobile version of my site looked like, and someone went to it and they were like, "This looks like trash," and I went,
Yep.
"Oh no!" I'd added so many things that it just kind of auto populates, and those are just, again, going back to the webinars and things. Those are just little things that I don't think about. But when I'm a freelance person doing the gig life, like
Devil's in the details, baby.
Yeah, devil's in the details. And so speaking of the devil is around, and I'm sure right now.
Let's talk about the devil.
Let's talk about the Dark Lord. No, so they always say the devil makes work of idle hands, but I gotta say, you are someone who I don't think I've ever seen have idle hands, because if you have 5 minutes alone with a ukulele in the room with you, you're going to have a new melody, you're going to have a new set of lyrics. And so you're someone who, when you had some time, there was always some really awesome new song that came out of it, or something, an evolution of your work. And especially in like the year that you and I lived across the hall from each other, and you were constantly doing the gig thing. Every time you did a new song, or you were continuing to push, adding a new instrument, adding a new piece of technology, your sound evolved with that. So let's talk about what you as a musician are doing locked in your house right now for COVID. And I brought you on because I know you have some new music coming out like this week. And so we'll talk about that. But what has it been like being forced to be inside and being forced to kind of take a breath and suddenly having time to do some other things that you might not have had before?
That's a great question. I will say, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has been feeling pretty high levels of anxiety throughout this whole thing. And I'm going to start with saying that because, one, it's true. Two, it's really important for accessing like the weird, vulnerable parts of your personality, artistic personality and creativity. So yeah, it's been an interesting time for sure. Creatively, one of the big things that I've been telling myself is to not force it. So that was a pretty big thing. I kind of like, I like sat down with myself, and I was like, listen, you have all this time. You don't have to write a song every day. You don't have to be productive every day. Sometimes you just need a break. And for me, songwriting has always been something, I'm just kind of always doing it. You know what I mean? Always writing things down, always thinking about things, always, the gears are always turning, so to speak. But I really didn't want to put pressure on myself to sit down and write a song every day during this time, because for me, it doesn't feel authentic if I'm forcing myself to sit down and write a song every day. So I've been writing when it feels right. I've been, I've just been trying to think about what is important to me as a human person.
That's amazing. Because the biggest thing is I'm loving to focus on what people are making during this time, but I want to keep reminding people that, like, as an artist, you do not have to create right now if you do not want to.
No,
like,
you don't have to.
If you are not driven to do your thing, take time, because, like, especially a lot of theater folks and film folks and musicians, like, this is the first time you've had a moment of silence and peace in probably months or years. And so, like, take this, rejuvenate, like, live in that moment of anxiety, because this is a really uncertain time. It's terrifying. It is scary.
And I think it's a good time for all of us as artists and as people to assess our currency, like what do we place value on? How does that interpret what we create? you know, and just kind of going down the rabbit hole with things like that. I will say, all of the stuff that I have been making during this time, the songs that I've been writing, I've been feeling incredibly good about, and I think it's I feel really good about them because it's coming from a place of me not forcing myself to be overtly creative. It just happens when it feels right, and then I get a really good product out of it, which is a good way, at least for me, to kind of move through a time like this. I will say I'm pretty lucky. I've got my studio set up at my house, so I've been demoing a bunch of songs for the new record, and the engineer that I work with, where I'm recording the album, his studio's an hour away. We've been having a lot of remote sessions, which has been great. So even during this time, we've been able to make a lot of progress on the record itself, which has felt really good. And I don't know if you know, but NASA has put all of their like sound bites and stuff on their website. Yeah,
I did not know that.
Dude, you can download an MP3 file of Sputnik beeping.
That is so cool.
It's incredible.
That is
NASA.gov. Go.
As like the space geek in me, but also the like I love a good, you know this about me, I love a good sound design. I love a good audio track with like non-musical instruments in it. It gives me so much life. It gets at my heartstrings. And
baby
that
boy,
is
it is there.
That
it
is so
all there.
That is brilliant. So NASA.gov, go check that out right now. So let's talk about, you've got Too Good coming out this week.
Yeah.
And
it came out on, I think it came out May 10th. Right.
Oh, great! Yes, it is out. It is out.
Because this will be broadcast in the future.
In like 2 days on Monday. So hello Monday. Yes, hello future people. Great.
In the future. Hello future people.
Hello future people. Has it been better? I doubt it. It's only 2 days. So that's awesome. So what was kind of some of the inspiration for you behind this song? Were you already working on this prior to the lockdown?
Yes. Yes. So we started recording the song back in December.
Oh, killer.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and then actually right before, so I wrote it at the end of the summer. Started recording it in December. Mind you, my band and I, we've been playing it live basically since I wrote it, because I was talking about this in an interview the other day. I was like, from the moment I wrote the song, I could not wait to show my band, and it's our favorite song to play live. So we were playing it live long before it was released. But so we started recording it in December. And then right before I went on tour, we were in the studio basically finishing it. So it took a couple sessions. I'm so incredibly elated by the final product. I think it's some of my best work. And I got to work with so many great people on the track, and I'm so excited. And this is the first single off of the new record, and I think it's a really great introduction to the next chapter. You know what I mean? But yeah, your other question was inspiration, right?
Yeah. What's inspiring you to write right now? What's inspired this album?
Well, the inspiration for that song, I guess, is a bit cynical. When we play it live, I always like to say, this song goes out to all of my ex-boyfriends and all of your ex-spouses, because you were probably too good for them anyway. And then when I say that, people are always like, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So it's a pretty, I'd like to think of it as an empowering song, you know? There's the main hook of the song is, I'm too good for you, baby. Like, you're moving on from a toxic relationship, which is really great. It's a really great feeling to move on from something like that. So, yeah, the main inspiration was from a relationship that didn't quite work out as what happens
it does sometimes. It happens sometimes.
As it happens. Yeah, and I remember right before I wrote it, there was a time where it felt like every song that I was writing wasn't good.
Mm.
And it was because I wasn't letting myself heal or move on from this thing that had just happened, and I wasn't feeling too great. And then I sat down and I wrote that song. I started to play like the opening chords on my guitar, just like messing around, and it all just kind of came out. And I was like, whoa, like this is it. It's like
Kismet.
this is me moving on in real time. Like
Ugh.
as I was writing that song, it was very cathartic. And yeah, I love that song. I love it. It helped me a lot.
Well, and I think this is actually people. Another thing that's happening, I think, with everyone being, I keep using the phrase quarantine, but like stay at home, self isolated. A lot of people are suddenly having time to look at, realize how many toxic traits people have been pushing towards them, or like how much of other people's toxic traits they've been putting up with for a long time. And whether it's relationship, friends, work environment, I actually think this is you almost couldn't have asked for a better time, because we always need that, like, the fuck you song, or the song that like
I do call it my fuck you song.
And
Yeah.
I think in a time of like Lizzo being on the charts and things, we need those moments that help us reclaim that strength and kind of power of self and like love of self. And so I think this is, you couldn't have asked almost for a better time with everybody having to be inside, and we all constantly, I think, are consuming media at such an alarming rate.
Oh my
Because
God.
we're just having time to go through everything. A lot of my friends have joked that they have literally gotten to the end of Netflix and it's a barren area at the end of Netflix.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is interesting.
No wonder why we're all so anxious.
Right. So I think it's also, no one wants to have this happen, but I think it's really interesting and wonderful that that this was able to line up for a release kind of now and give people like things to listen to while they're lysoling their doorknobs.
It's really interesting because empowerment is so important, and the song to me it's celebratory, it's empowering, it's I can finally move on from this, and that's a very freeing thing to realize. And I was going to release the song, I think I was going to release the song like 10 days later than what I had originally planned, because I was on the lineup for Mountain Jam this year, but unfortunately it got canceled. And I remember being so gutted by that, because that was going to be like the biggest show of my life, like baby's big break, and I just remember having nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I was having trouble dealing with that. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to push the song. I'm going to push the release up 10 days because it's going to make me excited, and hopefully it will make other people as excited. So I'm glad that people, the response has been quite good, and it's been making me feel really fulfilled.
That's so good. I'm so glad. And people can listen to that right now. Like right now.
Right now.
So where's the best place for them to stop right now, pause the podcast right here and go listen to to your new song?
You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon. There's a music video. There's a wonderful, wonderful lyric video that my friend Louise made that is up on YouTube. And if all else fails, you can go to ciarrafragale.com, and you can pretty much find everything that you need to find at the website.
Amazing. So one last question for you before we go to our break. What do you think for you, just for your corner of the world, what do you think the future...
corner, in my own little chair. I'm stuck inside my house.
Oh, I love a little rewrite of Rodgers and Hammerstein. I think it's time that we rewrite some Rodgers and Hammerstein. I know
Sung in the style of Laura Osnes.
Oh, we stand Laura Osnes in this house. What do you think the kind of the future of artists making their work is going to be? What do you see your future after we slowly reopen and you're able to start touring, or maybe touring isn't on the map for a year? What do you see just the future of kind of the performing arts being?
That's a really interesting question. I think right now people are thinking of incredibly innovative ideas to be able to get their art out there, and I think what I hope for, what hopefully we all hope for, is that people will come out of this with more of an appreciation for the arts. Whatever that means, But it's very obvious that, one, people need to be entertained, and two, art exists because it says a lot of the things that we can't a lot of the time. And so I would hope that coming out of this, that people kind of have more of an appreciation for the arts and realize that artists are we're out there, we're doing it, we're we're saying all of the things that people wish they could say. You know what I mean? Even if we don't know how to say it, we have a way to express it. Art is expression. Everyone needs to express themselves. But I think as creators, where the future of that is going to go, I think people, obviously I think people are going to turn to more of a virtual platform, for better or for worse. But I think people are thinking of really creative ways to be on the internet right now, which as someone like myself, the internet makes me very anxious. So all of this media consumption has been definitely a weird thing for me. But I think if we embrace technology and embrace the future, we'll be better creators. We'll be better creators. Yeah, I guess I don't really know. At least for musicians, it's really hard to say because, there are thousands of us who make our livings touring across the country. Sorry, my mom just called. I had to.
You're okay.
I had to decline the call. But yeah, so there are so many of us who make our livings literally playing shows, and I think venue owners and bookers are gonna hopefully they're gonna work with artists moving forward to kind of to make it safe, you know, to be able to have people gather. I mean, that's what I hope for. But I think all in all, I think the future for the artistic world will just hopefully have more, more passion. And, we got to be the driving force to make people feel okay again,
Oh, that's a great quote. That is a beautiful quote.
Yeah. It just came to me.
It just came to you. You're brilliant. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. There
it just came to me because you asked that question, and I was like, "Oh fuck, how do I answer it?"
I know it's a big. I know we're asking the big questions here.
We're doing the big questions here.
We're doing the real journalism here. We're doing the real journalism.
It's flawless. It's flawless journalism.
Well, we'll be right back after this brief break with a word from our sponsor with Ciarra Fragale.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
Ciarra, I love the vibrancy that you just talk about your work. It is refreshing because there's nothing worse than when kind of an artist gets kind of tired and downtrodden, where it seems like their work doesn't bring them the joy. And I just sometimes I step back and go, why aren't I finding joy in what I'm doing? Because like as a costume designer, I'm getting to like play dress up eternally with people and play all these really cool roles before other people play them.
Sure.
And so I get sad when artists lose their joy. And so we've talked about your new music, and I am so excited for the full album. But what other things, music aside, whatever else, what are just some things that are bringing you joy right now in quarantine, despite COVID and the moron we have in the White House? What's bringing you joy?
Yeah, well, I will say living in North Adams has been very wonderful because it's still pretty safe to access nature here. Mm-hmm. It's still pretty low risk.
And the nature there is beautiful for anyone who has never been.
Oh, it's breathtaking. And so that is probably like top of my list for things that have been, bringing me some joy. Because I've just been trying to get out whenever possible, riding my bike as far as I can until I puke. And I hiked at Mount Greylock today. Like I woke up super early this morning with a few, with a few people in my very tight circle, and we hiked up to the top, and I was quite emotional when we got to the top. I was working through a lot of stuff, like all of the things that I've been sitting on during this time in quarantine.
Yep.
It all just kind of came out, 3,100 feet above sea level.
Yes, absolutely.
So I got to the top. And I kind of like went away from everyone, and I just started crying.
Oh no.
No. It was a good cry. It was a necessary cry.
Yeah.
It was a cry that was like a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so getting outside as much as humanly possible, basically. I exercise a lot, probably too much. But that's been kind of bringing me some solace, really just kind of being out in nature. And I've also been cooking quite a bit, as I think everyone has, but just feeling the pride in the way that I can like make good meals for myself, it's like, you know what it's like? It's like when you're a little kid and you dress yourself for the first time and
Yes.
it actually looks good.
Yes.
That's like what it feels like when you cook yourself a bangin' meal.
Oh yeah. Well, it's really nice because everybody's probably rolling their eyes because we see the never-ending memes of sourdough starters and
God.
everyone's food, but it's one of those things that like we're for the first time, there's a generation of about 10 years worth of us who are able to take a breath and like I can be home for more than a meal a day. Like, it's one of those things where I have time, as scary as it can be, I have time to go grocery shopping or order my groceries in. And I have time to like really think about the food that I'm putting in my body and what I'm making and like figuring out how to make things that I really enjoy.
Yeah. And it's also the first time that our generation has, or anyone really, I don't know. Is it weird to say that, like, or is it wrong for me to say, like, we don't really have any obligation to society right now?
None.
Nothing matters.
Yeah. And you know what? It's something else that I love about that is we don't have the necessity and the societal agreement, if you will, the non-signed agreement of like the faux politeness and like the faux decorum that everybody thinks is
pleasantries.
nonsense. The pleasantries we do not have to do. And like for the first time, people are able to go, hey, I don't have the bandwidth to like talk today. Can we chat tomorrow? And everybody's like, oh my God, yeah, let's just whatever's good for you. And
Yeah.
it's really nice because I'm thinking we're actually seeing people, instead of just being like making a quip about mental illness and mental health and like the idea
Yes.
of like the idea of self-care is actually really important right now because it's not going to a spa, or it's, maybe sometimes that is what self-care is. For me,
Yeah.
honestly, going to get a gel manicure was part of my self-care because I had, 55 minutes where no one talked to me and I had to like focus inward on myself, which is a scary place to be. And so it's one of those that like we are able to, without the like Instagram or influencer aspects of, yeah, we're able to put aside the bullshits and really actually focus on self-care and
Yeah.
really focus on like having to be okay with ourselves and like live alone as a being, because that is really hard for a lot of people.
Right. And I think, and so I live alone here at my house in North Adams. And, you know, it's been, logistically, it's been great.
Right.
But
Because you can actually social distance. Like you can actually do what is being asked of everyone.
I will say, I mean, emotionally, it has been so hard. For reasons that I don't have to explain because you already know.
Yeah.
But I do think, in this time, we're learning how to be self-sufficient. More and more people are starting to grow their own food. Like, can you think about how amazing that is? One, for the environment. Two, for everyone's health.
Yeah.
We're learning how to be self-sufficient. We're learning how to take care of ourselves better, whether that means self-care or mental health or physical health. It's a really introspective time for a lot of people to, to learn how to be a better person for themselves. And yeah, so definitely thinking a lot about that. I've learned a lot about myself, which in a weird way has brought me joy because, self-realization is pretty important.
Yes.
I've been thinking a lot about mindfulness as well. How to kind of shut off all the background noise for a second and just kind of be present in the moment, which I think I talked about earlier a little bit.
Yeah.
But, one thing that I have been doing is like every morning I make myself a pour over coffee, which, it's got a lot of steps if you want to do it right and make it good. And it's a very mindful way to start the day. So and it's something that I look forward to, making myself a cup of coffee, making myself breakfast. You know how much I love breakfast. Lately, the weather's been nice, so I've been having breakfast on my porch. And it's just a really, if you can start your day with some sort of mindful activity, especially during a time like this, you're going to set yourself up to have maybe a little bit of a better day than you had the day before. Yeah. So that's been another thing that has given me a healthy dose of glee.
Well, that's so good. I mean, and it's we joke about it and we giggle, but like it's for a lot of us, it's the first time that we've had to sit down and we've had to focus, but like you also have that time to better yourself. You have the time to, it's not even to like the idea of treat yourself, but it's like the idea of you have control over your day, even for people that work from home. Your commute is now so much shorter, but like it's still setting that idea of your your pace and your schedule and how you do things, but you're able to now give yourself that time to kind
Absolutely.
of breathe into yourself.
And the funny thing is, in a way, that time has always been there. Mm-hmm. But it's been masked by so many other things. Whether that was your commute to work every day, or your hour and a half subway ride to the other end of Manhattan, or like you always had the time, but it was always, other things were always distracting us and making us unable to be present in the moment and realize like, oh, I can chill for a sec,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's I love that. I love that because I realized, because I was still teaching for the whole first month that we were on stay-at-home order, and I was finishing up grad school, and it was one of those things.
Yeah,
But
congrats,
I suddenly,
by the way.
thank you so much.
So proud.
I'm
Go Gators.
Thank you. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
But it's one of those things that, like, it's astounding that when I think about the difference that my 2 hour, hour and a half commute every day, the change that made, that like suddenly what I could do with 90 more minutes, or the difference of I didn't need to wake up an hour and a half or 2 hours before I had to be at work, but I still did, because then I was able to go, okay, you have to check your emails from this time to this time, because like I am a very detail-oriented person, but I'm also really easy to flake and just let myself flake on things, and that is something that I've had to like work on through this.
No
but
in
you know,
between.
no in between. But it's one of those things that it was actually really refreshing, because I had those when I had a down moment, or like we all bottom out once or twice during the day. I could literally walk over, sit on my bed, curl up, put on some lavender in my oil diffuser. I know there's, placebo effect, but it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And, it didn't alter my day in a way that like suddenly I had to cancel two things, or I'm crying in my office, because I'm suddenly able to address the issues that were me issues of how do I then deal with that better. And I like that we are forcing ourselves to have to do that, because you can't run from it.
Yeah.
And for some people, maybe that is a bottle of wine every night during quarantine. I am not here to judge you.
And that's
Go
fine.
wine.
Listen, I
Go-
got super drunk on Cinco de Mayo. We've
I
all
love-
been there.
We all, like, you can get it delivered. Get it delivered, y'all. It is
Get it
okay.
delivered.
Get it delivered. Get it delivered. I love that.
Save yourself a trip to the liquor store.
It's so true,
Get it
because let me
delivered.
tell you,
Do you think-
it is a true dystopian nightmare land. I'm in Virginia currently, and I drove past the ABC store earlier to go to Target to get some actual essentials. I was actually there getting essentials, and like there was a line, and it was a rough looking line.
Just get it delivered.
People are having a rough time right now, and
Do you think the people who deliver booze, like, do you think they hired like a 15-year-old kid to like bike it out? You know what I mean?
in New York, absolutely.
Like
in
he's
LA,
got like a
absolutely.
basket on the front of his bike. Maybe not 15. They probably have to be old enough to
Legally
at least,
18.
to at least
Yeah.
serve alcohol,
Right. Well, because it's sealed. I mean, I'm working for Instacart right now, and so like, if I'm processing an order for someone in store, I still like have to prove in the app that they're over 21 and I'm over 21. So I mean, I guess, but I still like that idea of like that kid going to your local bodega and like putting it in his little basket and going the like 15 blocks, or like the idea in LA of MedMen, you're gonna have some really sassy like gay boy out of drag delivering your weed for you from MedMen, like one of those things. Like, it's
Just get it delivered.
just get it delivered. Get it delivered. It's all
delivered.
right. Get it delivered. It's fine.
Is that the slogan for this episode?
Yeah, get it delivered. It's
Just
the
get it
subtitle.
delivered.
Just get it delivered. Quarantine, get it delivered. So, we talked earlier about how people are taking in media so much, and you and I, we've taken in a lot of media together, but whether it's a theater show, because you and I can talk for hours about theater.
Oh, boy.
And it's wild that Broadway
That's
is
a whole
closed.
that's a whole other episode.
That's a whole other can of tuna. But like Broadway's closed. Which you're gonna get delivered. Albacore, organic, vegan.
Yum.
So, we've watched maybe multiple seasons of Stranger Things together,
Oh, boy.
like sitting in a room. But is there any media that you're kind of taking in right now that you hadn't before, or something that's really kind of you're enjoying that you've now had time to watch or read or listen to?
Yeah. So I've already rewatched Parks and Rec during this
Good.
during this time. It's my favorite show. I will never stop rewatching it. Suspend your judgment, please, because I don't want to hear it. So,
If someone's judging you for liking Parks and Rec, listening to this, you need to turn it off and unsubscribe. Actually, please don't. Please do not unsubscribe. Please don't unsubscribe.
but really take a second to think about your morals as a person. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I've been, Parks and Rec is like my feel good kind of thing, right? I'm currently, what am I reading? I've got like a stack of books right next to me. Let's see. I'm currently reading The Knicks.
Ooh, tell us about it.
It's really great. It's about, I can't, offhand, I can't remember who wrote it. Supposedly they're making a movie of it with none
Everything's a movie. Everything's going to be a movie. It's fine.
with none other than Meryl Streep.
Oh, Meryl.
So quite excited about that. But basically, it's a book about a son and his estranged mother reconnecting through some pretty weird circumstances. I don't want to give too much away, but
Yeah. No.
but it's really interesting, and it's sad, it's happy, it's gut wrenching, it's everything. So I've been really enjoying that. I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately. And some docu-series. One of the most recent being The World According to Jeff Goldblum, which
On Disney Plus.
Yeah.
We stand Disney here, obviously.
Oh my gosh! Listen, can we do a whole other episode where I talk about Jeff Goldblum and how much I love Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah, he was just a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race. Like it is such a weird full circle. Like I watched Earth Girls Are Easy the other day, and I just like, despite things, I go, what did we do to deserve Jeff Goldblum? Because he's just a treasure. He's that stoned uncle that like everyone. Oh, God, I'm just so thankful for him.
That man is amazing. And the best part about him having his own TV show is that I get to listen to him talk for a couple of hours, and it's wonderful.
And it's the timbre of his voice and how he makes sound in his instrument is so strange, but it is so wonderful.
It's so wonderful. And his hand gestures and the way that he's grounded in his body. Oh, my God.
Okay, which is so funny because I believe that he is eternally high. I believe that he's just always high. Like it's just a thing.
But you know
and
what?
So like
he doesn't really smoke weed though. I don't think.
I know. But it's one of those things that it's so funny because he has such a lightness to him that I agree with you. He's so grounded, and which is something we're always fighting as performers and people are on stage that like, you're someone who has a very big lightness on stage, but you're a wee person, but you have so much energy.
Yeah.
And so you all are very similar in ways, but he is so grounded, and it's always just so interesting to watch.
He's so interesting. And I will say, the cool thing about that show is, like, in every episode, he's exploring a new topic, whether it be ice cream or denim, or he did an episode on coffee. But he always starts out every episode with a question, which is namely, like, why are people interested in this? Like, he wants to get to the bottom of why people are interested in this certain thing. And watching him kind of navigate that, but he's not playing a character.
Right.
He's being his total self. And it's so interesting. It is watching that man in any capacity is a masterclass in what am I trying to say? It's just a masterclass in presence, really, because he is so incredibly present and so interested, and it's great. So I've been loving that. obviously, I've been listening to a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to a lot of music by my friends, which has been wonderful. Every morning when I make my coffee, I always try and put on a record and kind of just start my morning listening to that. Sometimes, though, I'll just turn on the TV first thing in the morning.
Of course.
Community is on Netflix now, which is one of my favorite shows. So
Yes.
I've been making my way through that. Recently, I've been writing in my journal again, which feels pretty good. I've been kind of like documenting. I've been trying to document like the hikes and the bike rides that I go on, and how I've been feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, just kind of using that as points to reflect on things. But yeah, I've been trying to stay off my phone, man.
Good. That is, that's been the funny thing is like, while with the last month, it was hard because I was constantly answering emails and things. But now that I don't need to be, I've like left my phone on a shelf. Like earlier, I realized I'd left my phone on a shelf for about 4.5 hours. And I went, oh God, I hope Ciarra didn't text me in that 4.5 hours. And I went back and I realized I was like, but it's just like so nice. Now, granted, during that time, I typically have Animal Crossing right here because but it's because I'm like rearranging flowers and planting fruit trees. It's so lovely.
I've also been gardening. It's been wonderful.
So I've been working in a Wegmans and they had the most beautiful bulbs the other day. And I was like, I'm going to buy these and plant them. And then I was like, why are you going to plant them in Virginia if you're moving back to Florida? But I suddenly want to garden and do these things that I tangentially have always thought about. But now I'm like, you have the time and they're not that expensive. Like maybe this is where maybe instead of buying something shitty on Amazon, you go buy some bulbs and some potting soil and a pot. Do it. I'm
not going to call it a weird state, but a very special state where I only want to buy stuff from my friends or from a local market. Like, it is so important that we think about where our money is going right now.
You are absolutely right.
That's why people should support artists, support musicians, support anyone who is fallen under the wrench of the gig-based economy right now. And it's, really think about where you're spending your money. Buy those bulbs at Wegmans, plant your own food. It's, not to be preachy, but it is so, so, so important that we do that.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things because those are going to be the people that are going to thank you later and not necessarily thank you specifically with a kind word or giving you anything back, but like you're going to see that that artist was able to make another album or that artist was able to like keep going and not have to move back in with family.
Yep.
Or, you were able to keep, a theater artist going whose tour gets canceled because there's not going to be theater again for a while. Or, they're just these things. Or I think about drag performers, nightlife performers, where, like, those queens are literally doing full production numbers with quick changes and, like, shablams in their living room. Which especially, like, LA and New York queens, when they're in an 8x8 living room. So it's like there are performers and people who need the money. And especially if you are lucky enough to be employed right now, like, I've never seen so many people who are not afraid to like give you their Cash App, their Venmo, their PayPal, their bank account so you can give them a credit card payment. They will let you pay their bills. Like it's one of those things that if it's a difference of, you got a free delivery fee on your groceries, take that $5 to $7 and give it to...
Because you're going to get it delivered.
Because you're going to get it delivered. Quanti, get it delivered. But it's one of those things that, because if you're buying a week's worth of groceries, Instacart's doing free shipping over $35. So, like, it's going to be, and so take that delivery fee instead of because you're not able to go to Starbucks or do those things. Give it to an artist. Like, actually, it's one of those things people were willing to take that money right now.
Maybe you saw, but the day that I got back from tour, I started a stay-at-home tour. Yes, I did.
Where
I toured around every room in my house, basically. Every night was a different room. The idea has not been repeated, which makes me think that I was the first to do it. And people saw it and they were like, yep, we're just gonna
I
do
haven't
it.
seen anybody else do that either. And I actually think it's really interesting. I think it's very funny because it's like you're still on tour, and you arguably have the opportunity going live on Instagram or Facebook. You have the opportunity to reach so many more people than if you're playing a venue in a town to the people that you already know. Even though that venue will sell, like it's
Right.
amazing. It's shitty to have to like set up everything in a living room or do your thing, but like you have the opportunity to like have someone who might not have heard you otherwise be scrolling through and you pop up on Facebook, and I think that's really, really fun and exciting.
Yeah, so what I was going to say was, so when I did that, I was, I gave my PayPal and my Venmo, and I was like, listen, you pay $2 for a cup of coffee at the coffee shop every day. You're not going to the coffee shop right now. So give that money to me, and in return, I'll let you hear the new song, which is Too Good, like 2 months early.
Right.
So you incentivize it in a way, and I got a really good response because I think you're right, because I think if people have the money, even if it's literally it's $2, it's $2. Like if people have it, and if people have it and they're not a piece of shit, like they'll give it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the one time is we're now seeing the bare minimum of what we need to get by, and I think people are okay with that. And so anybody that's got, even if it's a couple bucks extra, I was watching a broadcast of Drag Race last week hosted by some queens, and it was like a $5 suggested donation. I didn't really have it, but I was like, you know what? I'm giving them $10. Plus I'm going to tip a couple of these queens just because like they are out here still literally doing what they're doing and still providing services and like light and love and energy. And that's what people need more than anything right now.
Yeah, you just love to see it, really.
Yeah. So one question that I always ask before we wrap up, if you've got one phrase, one word of just hope or just something that you want people to keep thinking about after they stop listening to this episode, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
All the big questions, hard-hitting journalism here.
Can I give two?
Yeah, give as much as you want.
Okay, so lately, the mantra that I've been kind of using for my day-to-day life has been embrace simplicity. In any way that you decide to interpret that. And then, my other one, which you have heard me say, I've been saying it for years, but normal's just a cycle on the washing machine.
And I love that because I actually was given a book. It was like a weird Christian teen book as a kid, but like
my favorite kind.
But it's one of those things that like everybody's like, when is normal happening? And I was like, never. We are never going to be back to normal, and that's okay because normal really wasn't working. So like we're going to have a new version of what our day-to-day should be, and
yeah, we got to transcend normal. You know what I mean?
We have to transcend normal.
Maybe that's the one.
That's fucking gold. We have to transcend normal. Get it
transcend
tattooed
normal.
on you. Get it. We'll make stickers. We'll make tote bags. You must transcend normal.
That's a
love
Ciarra
that.
Fragale. That's a Ciarra Fragale original right there.
Ciarra Fragale original. Trademark. I love that.
Before someone else takes it.
Well, Ciarra, I love you so much. Thank you
love
for
you
agreeing to be on the
too.
show with me.
Oh my gosh.
I have not, being apart from you has been so sad because like no one realizes what, like, everybody talks about like living with their friends in college, but like we had the interesting thing of like we got to live door to door with each other.
Yeah.
But like it would just it's you, these are those moments where like you could just walk in and be like, can I have a hug? And it was, it's just one of those things that I miss that so much. And so I'm glad everyone got to learn about who you are and we got to chat.
Well,
and-
thank you so much
Of course.
for having me. It has been a joy to talk to you. The listeners obviously can't see this because they're listening with their ears and not with their eyes, but we're on a FaceTime
We are.
call right now. And even just like seeing your face on the screen, I'm like, I miss you.
I miss you too. It's literally, I just feel like I'm at the end of the couches of Fat Bob's, you're at the other, and we've got Shrek the Musical playing, and it's lovely and,
Yeah, and
wonderful.
You know, having these types of conversations with someone that, you know, you've known for a long time and that you trust, and you know, you can kind of talk freely and openly, but you can talk about the real shit. It's really important.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Of course, I like to encourage everybody to like have conflict with your friends, have like conversations with them right now, FaceTime on the phone that like maybe you all have been skirting, or like develop those friendships. Just because you're not able to be in a room with someone right now doesn't mean that you actually can't like further that friendship, that partnership, like further those things.
Tell that girl you love her.
Tell her you love her. Tell that person you love them. Tell them you love them. It's that thing, like, this is that moment, like, shoot your shot with your friends. Like, just that idea of, like, we're so, like, I even realize that I have friends that I'm really close with that I only know them on, like, the surface level. And so, like, I'll talk to them a bunch and I realize, like, we get very cyclical because, like, we don't actually know that much about each other. And so this has been a really nice time to, like, see the inner workings of the other people that I know in my life and like making new friends with people. And that's been really, really cool.
Yeah,
So,
I totally agree.
Speaking of making new friends, where can all of our new friends online find you online?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, ciarrafragale.com
Great.
is the big one. I'm on Facebook, although I tend to use Instagram more, so you can follow me on Instagram at Ciarra Fragale. That's CIARRAFRAGALE. Spell it for the folks at home. I'm sure Matt will probably put it in a bunch of descriptions, though.
It will be in all of our social media.
There you go. So you can find me there, and hopefully you listen to some of the music. Hopefully you dig it, and hopefully you find some solace in it, like I have.
Thank you again for joining us for Isolation Cast, Voices from Quarantine. As always, you can find us on Facebook at Isolation Cast or on our main show at Dole Whip and Dreams Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Dole Whip and Dreams Pod. You can find us on Twitter at Dole Whip Pod. You can find our website at dolewhipandreamspod.com. And again, for $2 a month on Patreon, it keeps our main show and this show coming. It helps pay editors, it helps pay content writers, and it just lets us know that you love what we're doing. A big thanks to Case Aiken and everyone at the Certain Point of View Media Network. We are so excited to be part of the family. And you can find out more about our show, as well as all the amazing shows on the network at certainpov.com and on all of your favorite podcast platforms. We have a merch store. That's right, Dole Whip and Dreams and Isolation Cast has a merch store on Teespring. You can find a link to that on all of our social media platforms. And if you use the code DOLEWHIP, DOLWHIP, you get free shipping on all orders. Again, that's DOLEWHIP, DOLEWHIP, for free shipping on all orders. No matter what platform you listen to us on, thank you. And your thoughtful ratings and reviews let everyone know the kind of work that we are doing. Now go out and find your joy.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.